Sunday, August 24th. It's officially Virgo season. So shout out to all my Virgos. You know, we some good people, despite how the world be hating on us sometimes. But anyway, um, today is Sunday, August 24th, 2025. The time is 4:29 p.m. 4:29 p.m. And I titled this War of the Worlds. No, not the movie. Although I did like that movie. And if you want to see a dope breakdown of it, visit this sister named Queen Goddess Hope. She did an excellent breakdown of that movie, and I don't even want to mess with her take because she did a thing with it. But I want to talk about War of the Worlds. I want to talk about War of the real world. I want to talk about the war of the world of how we know it. Because see, I still think a lot of people not really understanding what's happening right now in the United States of America, if we want to call it that. I think people are still looking at this from the old school point of view of politics, right? I think people are still looking at this about presidents, how presidents are supposed to behave, presidential acts, um, what is it? Constitutions, constitutional rights, legalness, legality. That's not where we at. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said, you know what, bro? I said it's funny, especially of those of us that consider ourselves conscious, whatever that is. How people have been talking about the New World Order, and I ain't talking about Sting, even though that was the Wolf Pack. But I ain't talking about Hulk Hogan with his dead ass. I ain't talking about Macho Man. I'm not talking about Marcus Bagwell. I'm not talking about none of those. I'm not even talking about Dennis Rodman when he was part of the New World Order. What I'm talking about is what we are headed toward now. When people kept talking about black people, they stay in the house. They want to get y'all out so they can declare martial law. And I would say all the time, they don't necessarily need us to declare anything. See, you still think you're useful. You still think that you have a right, especially if your skin look like mine. And this don't mean stick your head in the sand and feel hopeless. But it's time to take those rose-colored lenses off. It's time to stop looking through that kaleidoscope, in a sense. And when I talk about the war of the worlds, I want to, of course, I'm talking about the war that's going on or we're about to embark upon. As I see that they said he's about to deploy more of the National Guards to, I think, like 19 states, Georgia, Tennessee, a couple of them. This is not normal. But I keep saying this: America played the trump card. Don't let that go over your head. America played the trump card. Because if you're paying attention, this has nothing to do with who voted for Kamala, who pushed the red button, who pushed the blue button, people not listening to women. We got to get beyond these circular emotional arguments. We tried to tell y'all, we resting. We resting for the next 4 years. Newsflash, we might not ever have another president again the way they're moving. We're headed toward a dictatorship. This was never about voting. This was about, if you paid attention to it and ask yourself these questions, if America is really worried about criminality like they're trying to tell you, if America's really worried about crime in Washington, D.C., why the hell is Donald Trump the president? I mean, he only incited a riot. We're not going to use these soft words. Insurrection. Insurrection sound kind of, it was a little melee. It was a little scuffle. It takes the harm away. It takes the real intentionality away of what they were. They were meant to send a white supremacist statement. But now he wants to get you, him and that old rotten JD Vance, want to get you to focus on the criminality in Washington, D.C. The crime rate in Washington, D.C. Criminality is out of control. The Tangerine Toucher loves to say things are just out of control. If it was about crime, why was he even able to run after inciting a riot? Ask yourself that for America. See, they got us focused on who voted for who. If you voted this way, if you voted that way, you were mind fucked. You were propagandized. I keep telling y'all, read Propaganda by Edward Bernays. A lot of these people didn't even know what hit them because he sold them the American dream. And if you're living the American dream or a search for the American dream, you have to be asleep. Only dreams come to sleepers. But they got you focusing on crime. They got you focusing on immigrants. They got you focused on all these things that they've told you that is important. Oh, the immigration. Oh, the immigrants. The illegals. If they're going to come over here, they need to do it the right way. All the stuff y'all say. When he didn't even get into the White House the right way. What is the right way? He didn't get into the White House the right way. Elon Musk said on several occasions, he even tweeted about it a couple of months ago, if it wasn't for me, Donald Trump wouldn't even won. But you're still talking about illegal immigrants and doing things the right way. There is no such thing as the right way when white supremacists, when a neo-Nazi is doing their thing. I need y'all to understand that. I need y'all to really understand what's at stake here. This is only the 8th month. We have such a fatigue. We have a presidential fatigue. Since they want to talk about black fatigue, can we use the word presidential fatigue? We're not even in a full 12 months yet. They're only laying the blueprint. They're only getting you to adjust to what they're doing. 2026 is going to be even worse. 2027 is going to be even worse. 2028 is when all hell is going to break loose. We're either going to be fully submerged in this way that they're trying, this new way to get you to think, or that's when it's all going to go out, because that's when it's going to be time to quote unquote select a new president. See, the war of the worlds is the way they're telling us the world, because they've always told us his story. It's always been about his story. And they just say history. And now you see he's even trying to control the Smithsonian, saying that it doesn't align with basically his political direction. They're talking too much about that slavery thing. See, I told you, all of these things were drop by drop. This is how you completely, ideological subversion, how you completely take over a people. Drop by drop. When people like Dane Calloway came out, and they began to come out and tell you and get you to focus on being anti-African. And they told you about an out of Africa theory, which is bull. Out of Africa theory. All of these were drops for them to whitewash. And then when they came out with critical race theory, to where they don't want you to even have a critical way that you even look at history, or a critical way that you look at race. They don't want you to have no critical ability to think. So the internet, which in my opinion is one of the biggest areas of people activity. Shout out to Neely Fuller and Dr. Francis Cress Welsing for their 9 areas of people activity. One of the biggest areas of people activity is social media. It's a social gathering space. How many times how many hours do we spend socializing on the internet? Hmm? So that is one of the biggest breeding grounds to sway your mind. And when they came out with all of these things, and they came out with all these nuances, and they came out with found the FBA, the Fear of Being African, or Foundational Black Americans. When they came out with all of this, and they came out and he was telling you the slavery happened in reverse, and you begin to minimize slavery. Not saying to live in it, and not saying to always relive these downtrodden moments, but that is where you guys want to talk about the resilience of America and the things that were built. How can you talk about the things were built? Because they were built in spite of. They were built in spite of everything we had been taken through, everything our ancestors. And when y'all dummies say, we ain't our ancestors, you can get these hands, you ain't gonna do squat. Our ancestors really stood for something. I don't know where y'all get this whole analysis that all the ancestors were suckers. All the ancestors laid down and took ass whippings. But when you say you're not your ancestors, what have you actually done to combat a slave master? Make a mean tweet? See, all of these things were to get you to get away and get into the war of the worlds. The war of the cultural worlds. The war of the mental world. The war of the spirit world. All of these things were the little nuances to get you to reject the way the world really is. And look at how he told you through his story. So now, when they're saying there's no need for this stuff at the Smithsonian, now when they've already, and when he's saying, please believe when he's saying the woke ideology, in my opinion, whose opinion? He's aiming it at certain levels. I'm gonna say most of the time he's aiming it toward Black history. Yeah, we can add the LGBT in, but that's kind of like Johnny come lately in a sense. Right? But when they're saying no woke ideology, who do you think they're targeting? They're targeting minds like mine. And now when you see them and they call it the Trump derangement syndrome, or he says you have like a Trump derangement, and it wasn't Gavin Newsom. I forget who he was saying, and he said this guy suffered from Trump derangement. They're even coming with ways that they can combat your psyche. For people that's speaking out like me, they can say, oh, this guy has a mental illness. Look at the way he's speaking. He's actually saying Donald Trump is up to no good. And we can see it clearly. But it's what they can make you believe. It's what that media can tell you constantly. That no, that ain't the problem. The problem is these blacks that's taking over, or the problem is these Mexicans, or the problem is the gays, or the problem is this. No, the problem is white supremacy. All of those other things, especially the LGBT, those are side effects. Being black and Mexican or Hispanic is who we are, and I don't believe in black and brown unity. But what I don't believe in meaningless bickering. I don't believe in no form of unity until blacks and blacks can have unity. So I'm not going to stand up here and talk about black and brown solidarity. Do I have a problem with the Browns? No. If they hate me, I hate them. If they don't like me, I don't like them. Just that simple. But I don't have enough time and energy to say we need to be against one when everybody is against us. The war of the worlds. It is America against the people. And we must understand that. Now, you can feel how you want to feel. Because when they show you these movies like The War of the World with Ice Cube, which I thought was a great movie. But you got people like Aries Spears, who's never funny. And you got people that's heckling, and it's funny that they always try to talk down on movies. And I'm no fan of Ice Cube. Please understand. Because I know that Ice Cube plays the middle. And a lot of us, we can't see the difference between Craig and O'Shea. Khalid Muhammad told you a long time ago, Ice Cube began to melt on him. In the song Gangsters Don't Live That Long, he mentioned Khalid Muhammad's name. But where has that revolution mentality went? Oh, it got compromised in the money. And I was also telling a friend, I hate to always give these disclaimers. I ain't saying money ain't important because the world is so fixated on money. And I'm gonna get this disclaimer for the sake of my video. Money is important, but it's not worth your soul. It's not worth going against everything that you claim that you stand on. Money is important, but it's not important enough to sell your soul. So I was able to, what y'all say, separate the message from the messenger. So I got the message out of the movie without looking at O'Shea, Ice Cube, whatever you want to call it. Because what these celebrities do, they have a real good way of making you think that they're down for you. Ice Cube straight. See, we got to stop this meaningless celebrity worship. These bronze sexuals, you prime sexuals, they're straight. Ask yourself, what button do you think Deion Sanders pushed? What button do you think LeBron James pushed? What button do you think your favorite celebrity who you stand up and go to war for, what button do you think they pushed? And why do you think they pushed it? See, when I see him using guys like Lawrence Taylor, Mike Tyson, when I see all of these neutered black males that go, and John Jones, who was one of the most neutered outside of that octagon, to watch him in one of his last fights, and I think Elon Musk and Donald Trump was sitting octagon side, and he basically was throwing himself and just making a fool of himself for Donald Trump, doing that little funky Trump dance. The War of the Worlds. To where you forget what your ancestors, who y'all say y'all ain't, so you forget what your ancestors had to go through for me to even be able to sit in front of this camera and do a video. It was because of my ancestors' fault. Not died. That technology they play on your mind. Our ancestors died to vote. Y'all just done set us back. Our ancestors died to vote. No, our ancestors died because of white supremacy. It wasn't like they, if I could just get to the voting poll and just, no. Cut the theatrics. Our ancestors fought for family unity. Our ancestors fought to read. Do you do that? Or do you want to just put yourself off on voting and feel like if you push that button and it says Democrat, everything is okay? Never forget, they voted to not impeach him also. Two wings of the same bird. The War of the Worlds, the political worlds. Blue, red, Bloods, Crips. Red pill, blue pill. Never forget. I want y'all to really understand. The power is in your family. Not your family members you don't fuck with. The power is in fixing yourself. All of this behind this, the war of the gender worlds. You got chicks versus the dudes versus whoever. I don't know who wrote the Willie Lynch. There are so many different aspects of who did, but wherever it came from, the methodology is masterful and it's true. Hell, we can even add new ones. The foundational Black Americans against the Pan African. You think you special? You say, we been here. What does that mean? Get up off of that simple-minded stuff. None of that shit is gonna matter when they at that door. Tell them you're foundational Black American and see. Oh, we're gonna leave this door because he's FBA and now Tariq Nasheed straight. They don't care that they don't care that I have that flag. The biggest war of the world is in the world inside you. The world that you done created inside you. The world that you done created inside here. And some of y'all are so stuck in it that y'all don't even understand. There's a big fire-breathing dragon that's coming closer and closer. Black women is so out of control. Black women is so out of control. Black women are out of control with a black men. Stop acting like one side is better. Black men ain't doing no better than black women. Black women ain't doing no better than black. We're all equally fried. Until you fix this, you ain't no different. But you don't understand that. Because you still think you got a stake in this country. You still think America loves you and your black skin. When it showed you it'll kneel on your neck. When it showed you it'll do your children like Tamir Rice. When it showed you it'll do women like Sandra Bland. It'll do them like women like Corin Gaines. It'll do them like young men like Jamarian Robinson, Kane Rogers. Never forget these names. Kendrick Johnson. Our world's been at war. You just thought because you got a full 1K plan and you pulled yourself up by them new bootstraps, you arrived. Newsflash, they never wanted you here. Give a fuck what you built. Because it ain't about what really happened, it's about what they tell you that happened. So we can stand out in this way and say, my granddaddy built that. And guess what they're going to say? Fuck you and your granddaddy. Not verbally. They might say it verbally, but they'll say it through their actions. You think J.D. Vance care about our history? They're working hard to erase it. If our great-granddaddies and great-grandparents built that stuff, if they got any ties to any of that history that went on in that Smithsonian Museum, they're trying to erase it so there's no trace of us. So that way when the cleansing happens, we're black folks. We got it on wax. They didn't even like each other. So therefore they were expendable. See, they don't even like each other. That's why they like them tokens. That's why they use them token Negroes. The token Negroes that get up there and say everything all right, like your Lawrence Taylors. Like your Byron Donald. That fool up there doing a I Have a Dream speech at a Trump rally. See, all of our ancestors weren't, I told you, just like I said, all of our ancestors weren't no punks. Some of them were sellouts. Some of them did die on their knees. Some of them did try to die to assimilate because they thought it would lessen the pain. And the only thing it did was make it worse. I want y'all to understand the War of the Worlds. This is phase 1. Don't get caught unprepared. And don't get caught up in the bullshit. Because it's all bull. It's all ego. So that's about my time. I'm not going to stay long. I just wanted to come on and drop some thoughts. Peace.